Thank you for sticking with us. We're the Rest Sports Podcast. We just got back from break and we're about to talk some NBA basketball. So here we go. Guys, trade rumors about James Harden to the Nets. Would this team be the favorite to win the chip if James Harden went to the Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving?
I think they will the Vegas odds will put them as the highest odds to win the NBA championship, but I just don't think they will. I think that James Harden and Kyrie Irving are too ball centric to be able to do anything. I think they'll their egos will get in the way. I mean, KD is ball centric too. He needs the ball in his hands to score. And I think he learned a little bit of being able to just spread the rock from Golden State, but I just don't see that team working out. Uh, just chemistry wise, I don't see them being a team that can compete in the playoffs.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Brandon here because we've seen people with on teams that need to have the ball in their hands to make a difference, and then when you have three of those people, I'm not sure how you can really like get the ball around to everyone. Like with Russell Westbrook and James Harden, we would usually see one of them do really good and then drop off the next game, and then the other one would step up. So I'm not really sure about how James Harden and Kyrie would work together. I feel like the Lakers are still would be the favorites if they get to retain AD and make a trade for some another shooter.
Yeah, man, I could really see this being a problem, but I could also see this being a success story. And mainly because I think one thing that we can compare to this is Russell Westbrook teaming up with James Harden. It was two ball centric guards with, that needed to have the ball in order to score. And one of them can shoot, one of them couldn't. It's just as simple as that. So they're doing two different things. And I think it just didn't work out quite well when one went to the bench. He was playing two different styles of basketball. It wasn't working for the whole team. But in this scenario, I could see this working out just because Kyrie's a great shooter. James Harden is a fantastic shooter. KD is a fantastic shooter. I could see these guys either learning how to spread the ball with a head coach like Steve Nash, who is like one of the greatest passers of all time, with a head coach like Steve Nash, and in a system that I'm gonna assume D'Antoni's gonna have a lot of influence on the system. Uh, and plus, knowing James Harden as a player, having coached him for about how long? I can't remember 4 or 5 years. Um, I can see this team being a very good success. I think the Brooklyn GM knew exactly what he was doing when he was getting all these pieces together. But that would be a really good team. I can't stop thinking about it, man. To be honest, what team CP3 the most? And I'm gonna leave.
Um, I mean, honestly, I think it's the Thunder with what he did for them this past season. They were projected like ninth in the West, and they ended up being a five seed in the West, and making the playoffs and taking the Houston Rockets to a game seven, I believe. Like, just they need him the most, but I also think that he would fit really really well with the Suns. Like, they would be a really good team with him, with his leadership and passing ability.
Yeah, I think that it would be in the best interest of OKC to keep him there because his leadership and what he did there basically carried them to the playoffs, and he brought even though they lost a lot of key pieces, he brought the team together and took them to the playoffs. And what Brandon said, I think took the Rockets to Game Seven. So that's it would be the best interest for OKC to keep him there.
I know this would never happen, and I'm a huge fan of this team, but fantasize for a little bit. Paul Murray played shooting guard. Just imagine they made a trade with OKC to get Chris Paul to the Denver Nuggets. Murray down to a shooting guard again, be the dog he is, and just have Chris Paul facilitate that offense. That would be something special. I would love to see him for having two great passers in Jokic and Chris Paul, and having Jamal Murray just cook, man. I think that'd be awesome to see. Uh, but I mean, there's so many teams he can go to. I mean, I can see him in LA. No, I don't think he wants to go to a year like that. It's like I think he wants to help a team over the hump. So that's why I think Denver would be a great place that could probably use him the most. Because if he goes to Denver, I can see them being favorites out of the East. I mean, favorites out of the West, even over Golden State Warriors. I know it's a lot doing that. What do you guys think about them favorites? They had Chris Paul.
I think they probably would be, but I don't think he'd actually really fit that well because Jokic is their point guard, and he basically is what Chris Paul would be if he was there. So having two Chris Pauls there is not really that necessary. Granted, Chris Paul's a little bit better shooter, but I still think that the best spot for him is the Suns or probably the Clippers, or like either of the LA teams would work, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you bring Chris Paul to the Clippers or the Lakers, because he's really unselfish and he'll do what the team wants him to do, and then he's a good team player, so I feel like he can bring those teams up to another level. I agree with what Brandon said that uh, Jokic is definitely a better, not a better shooter, but like they already have him. Why would they bring in Chris Paul to kind of play like second fiddle?
Yeah, yeah, man, I could see that. Um, yeah, it wouldn't be such a great fit. I just love the fan size. Like Denver's my team. I would love to see them with another star just to try to put some pieces together. But that's just me. But on to different stars. Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks is the favorite by Vegas odds to win the MVP next year. Do we agree with this? Because I mean, KD's coming back. I mean, you got a lot of players coming back that could compete for this. And plus, Braun still exists, and he almost got the MVP this year. Giannis still exists. What could happen this year, man? Brandon, I'll let you start it off.
I think he should be the favorite just because of how he played in the playoffs, and he's getting Kristaps back healthy, hopefully, and he's going to be able to play with him for a full season, hopefully. I think that the Mavericks will be pretty good this year, especially if he plays how he was playing. Like he'll be the leader of that team, and I think if they're winning enough games, he'll get the MVP. But I mean, I don't think KD with Kyrie, and if James Harden does go there, then there's just too many people taken away from KD that he won't get MVP votes. And same with James Harden, like he's not going to get MVP votes because of the people around him playing really well.
Definitely agree with what Brandon said because I feel like if anyone wins MVP, it's usually like you're the star of the team. You're doing the most. That's why I think Giannis won MVP last year, and why Harden won and Westbrook won a few years back was because they were like the focal point of their team. They did everything for the team, and like they were the star. And I think uh, Luca would definitely be um, that guy. So I agree with the odds, but I think there would be some people that pop up like Giannis's. Like if Giannis stays in Milwaukee, he could still be in the conversation, and Braun still exists. But then again, he does have AD, and he might potentially get someone else.
Yeah, man, I definitely see you from where you're coming from. I just mean, like these. I mean, it's just getting so good. The like top few superstars are getting so good, man. Like I could see Doncic winning. I could see Giannis getting his third in a row. I could see AD even being in the conversation. Braun's in there. KD's in there. Like preseason, like I see so many guys that could possibly win this award, and I'm just like, dang, man, like this is a legit MVP race, and it's going to be a crazy season. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening, with the virus still going on, and like people will be out, people will be in. We might not see a player. This might be the first season we might not see one player play the full season, and that's a weird thing to think about. Like there might not be one player that plays the full season just because of this virus. And just thinking about that, that's going to take really heavy weight in the MVP conversations because we could have a player out with COVID for 2 weeks, and the next thing you know, this surging player comes up and basically steals it from them. But you never know. We'll see what happens with this year. Hopefully, President Biden gets it all taken care of and stuff. But we'll see what happens. Um, but moving on from that, let's talk about the Lakers, man. Let's talk about the current champs. They had a great run, but they're trying to stack up because they know everybody's coming for them. And they're looking at DeMar DeRozan. Trade rumors about DeMar DeRozan coming up. How would DeRozan in LA work? I don't think it would work because, in that trade, they would have to give up Kuz. They have to give up Danny Green. And that's honestly their two of their best 3-point shooters, and they're giving him up for a guy who's a very great mid-range shooter, but not known of being a 3-point shooter. So what do you guys think about that, Brandon?
Yeah, I don't think you should get rid of Danny Green. Even though he didn't shoot the ball really well in the playoffs. He was still like a threat to make shots, and he spread the floor really well. And he's a good defensive player. I think you can move Kuzma. Granted, he was one of your better shooters, but if you can move him to get a better shooter, I definitely would, because he's just not a good defensive player, and not for DeMar DeRozan. DeMar. He probably would have been in the GOAT conversation if he would have played back in the 70s and 80s, but he's playing in the 3-point shooting era, and he's just not a shooter. So I don't think you should trade for him. Or I saw that the Lakers are trying to trade for Dennis Schroeder, who's basically he's a he's a good passer, a little bit of a shooter. He can knock down the mid range better than the mid 3-point shot. But I just don't think you get rid of Danny Green, who's probably your best shooter and your best perimeter defender.
Yeah, I think if we go back to DeMar, it depends who you get rid of to get him there. Because I love him as a player and love what he did in Toronto. I think he's a really really good guy and a really good team player. But I don't know how well he can fit in with this team. And if Lakers bring him in, they're bringing like another defensive powerhouse because like he does work. But if we talk about like the Dennis Schroeder trade, possible Dennis Schroeder trade with Danny Green, you're losing a really, really, really good defender and a like usually automatic shooter other than that finals game, of course. But you're losing an automatic 3-point shooter and you're losing a really, really good perimeter guy. So I'm not sure the trade-offs that they should make in order to bring in like another piece to stack the team even further. Kuz, I feel like Kuz is definitely dispensable. um, he's not I don't think he's the best scorer, and he doesn't really try on defense.
No, man. The DeRozan trade just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think he needs to go to a team that desperately needs 3-point shooting. Like that was really one of their weaknesses in their championship run, and they won it. But you need that 3-point shooting. Um, and as far as Dennis Schroeder, now that is a trade that would be very beneficial. But I do have a question for you guys. In terms of that, and also I think you guys are forgetting, and I don't know for sure, but Avery Bradley is still a part of this Lakers team, and that will be shooting and defense for them that could replace Danny Green. Not maybe not as great of a shooter, but a better defender, I would say. But
I don't think so. I think you keep both of them. Then I would, the more 3-point shooting and defense you have, the better. Like that's literally